Okay, I think this is a little better, this camera setup. So, hello again. I'm Robert Kelly. I wanted to talk a little bit on this Sunday night regarding a couple important things that have occurred over the last 24 to 48 hours. But before I do, I wanted to start out with something that I noticed in one of the YouTube video subscriptions that I have. A sort of a commentator of African American social and political matters, his name is, for his channel, was Taurine Rain Unloaded. I forgot the guy's actual name. Doesn't matter. About last Friday, I believe it was, or was it Thursday night, he had premiered a video which it was his kind of response to the numerous different distractions and other crises that were occurring and are occurring in the United States with respect to all this, the mass shootings or what have you. And he said the moment he felt that a government can lie to its people was with 9/11. At the time, he was 12. I actually remember the day a little more well than he might, because I was 18. I'm 36 right now, so I'm older than Toria. But I remember that day quite clearly. In fact, at a later time, probably towards the anniversary of 9/11, I'm gonna give like a sort of an oral history of 9/11 and its aftermath and what I saw through it. Now, I wasn't there when the Twin Towers fell. I didn't survive at all and anything like that. But I remember those days. The point I wanted to make, though, is that I feel we could very well be going to those days or those consequences of the days again. One thing I do remember after 9/11, after September 11th, was when people started to understand that 9/11 was, at least in my opinion, an inside job. And by that I mean so many other forces and so many other different organizations, both domestically and even foreign, conspired to pull down the Twin Towers and in the process kill nearly 3,000 or so of our fellow citizens. People understood by that point that they could go onto the internet and they could get the information. They could understand, well, this is just one step of what was in the past and in the future. These things about false flags, about going into war, the false pretenses. People were pissed off, and understandably so. They wanted answers and they wanted stability. And I would have thought years ago we were getting to that point. Now, sure, the truth of 9/11 has not been revealed. I really think we were going to have that become more critical mass, and then in 2011, when the Bin Laden raid came around and he was officially declared dead, I think people started to just forget about it, because it was like, well, Osama bin Laden was the purported mastermind of 9/11. Now he's dead. And people started to forget about him. It's understandable. We had that boogeyman in that fear around for about 10 years or so. And while I think bin Laden's effectiveness prior to his official death in 2011 had ended, he might have already been dead, if you really think about it. I do get the point of why it was felt, let's kill this thing out once and for all, and have it be that the Democratic Party, like President Obama, Secretary Clinton, among others, Vice President Biden, would say, yeah, we did it. Well, they didn't do it. SEAL Team 6 did it. If they did it. Whatever. It doesn't make a difference right now. I felt at the time, okay, we're getting past this sort of thing. But I don't really think we've really gotten past it, because I even said this so much then and now. The country would be so much inclined to want to focus on the terrorism and the threat abroad, but they never want to focus it at home. I think many of you understand why. You know why nobody wants to talk about home, because there's just some things in the parlance that the commoners of the United States don't talk about, and they should. Now, when I say that, I don't mean every person in the U.S. I don't mean many people, but if you go to the heartland, the more conservative Republican states, there's a lot that they'll, on the surface and in the visuals, they will, and in the optics, they'll say, well, we are, Protestant Christians, we're conservative, we keep members of the family, blah, 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 blah. But yet, when you really peel down to it, there's a lot of problems. I've always said, the person that's telling you, that's being so much righteous about, say, being anti-abortion, peel the layers and you'll find that the person that is so much anti-abortion, if it's of men, may have actually paid for an abortion. Peel the layers of an individual that is so much anti-LGBTQ, you may find that the person is a repressed LGBTQ person. I never like that sort of hypocrisy, because I am someone that I have Asperger's syndrome. I'm on the autistic spectrum. It's a general rule for us on the spectrum. We can detect bullshit. So, when you detect that sort of bullcrap from people, you begin to understand what's real, what's not real, what's phony. And, where I live, more people can detect what and understand what is true and what is not. But it really isn't much that way in much of parts of the United States, wherein, due to circumstances beyond everybody's control, economically they are decimated. They're decimated in the agriculture, in the farming community, in weather conditions, in the jobs. It used to be that you could have someone in say Appalachia say, like, well, we are a family of people that work in the steel mills. We take pride in the steel mills. Your grandfather was a steel mill worker. Your father was a steel mill worker. You're going to be a steel mill worker. Now, I'm just generalizing here, whatever. But that steel mill is probably gone, and that's mainly because environmentally it's unsafe. It's not sufficient enough. Nature changes, people change, but people cannot stand many of the changes. Now, for me, when I think back to the 2016 election, what amazes me about so many people that voted for Donald Trump in those areas, and in even places that are really should be Democratic states like Michigan, they were sensing the fact of, well, we used to have these sort of jobs, we used to have this tradition. Now we don't have it anymore, because life changes, people change, everything has to evolve. And they always vote against their own interests, because it's for them it's like, do whatever it is to maintain that we'll have coal back in our communities and everything like that. You can't box what you have already unboxed in knowledge and in what has evolved. Now, one thing I noticed in the immediate aftermath of Donald Trump getting installed as president of the United States because he wasn't elected. He wasn't elected by the people. He was installed. He was placed in there. It was for about a year, maybe 2 years. Many people were starting to wake up again. They were saying to themselves, "Wait a minute, Donald Trump's in the White House? What the freak is this happening?" They were seeing all these different matters regarding, the increasing of shootings, the lack of decorum among other matters, and they were saying to themselves, "Wait a minute, this is wrong. We gotta put a stop to it." Many of us were, including so many that had voted for Trump, but then realized, "Oh my goodness, he won. We didn't expect him to win. We thought he would lose." They were like, "Okay, we're going to take forth whatever needs to be done to get things put right, protests, what have you." And there was a sense of unity. There was also a sense of people saying to themselves, "Okay, let's understand that we really need the democratic machine, or at least the old school machines running things now." And it was going really well until, among so many other distractions, Donald Trump and his administration, among others, decided to have the mass public get distracted and focus themselves on people having sex. Now, you may have a problem with, well, say, a man having sexual relations with someone younger than him. But I ask you, and I say this because I don't do this stuff. I don't have sex with these types. I'm not pedophilic or anything like that. People that know me know that I don't do this shit. So I have the ability to ask and to say, do you honestly think it's going to affect your life? It says to me that, if the person is doing whatever, but it's not affecting me, it's not affecting my life, it's not affecting what I need to do, why should I complain about what he or she is doing? I said this before in an earlier video. 50 years ago, the tactic would have been not about, child sex, if you will. I know it's a little icky to talk about it, but at the time it would have been talked about, that the ickiness that was talked about would have been about people that were having sexual relations with the same gender. Men's dating other men, women dating other women. Now we've passed that. I've said many times before, we passed it because times changed. And again, as I was going to say again, I personally think the depiction of Bert and Ernie on Sesame Street helped to change a lot of the conversation. And they'll never say it publicly, but trust me on it. But now we're at a point in which the LGBTQ community is, at least I hope, welcomed with the openest of arms as can be. Now, am I saying eventually it's going to go to, well, then the older person should marry the young individual, or what have you? I don't know. And really, because I'm not doing it, it's not going to, and because it's not something I would do, it really isn't going to affect me. No. So, why should I get all wrapped up around it? But the thing is that a lot of people do. And there's reasons and a lot of important decisions as to why it's made. But they still do it because it sells. It sells votes. It sells influence. It sells money, and it sells something to a populace that doesn't really understand much of anything. In the idea of, well, we're going to be getting these predators because they do things to our children, they do things to women, they do this whatever. And a lot of times when they say that, when it's like, well, we got to protect our children, we got to protect our women and things like that, they're not really. Those people that are saying we have to protect them, they're not really protecting them at all, are they? You and I know this. Okay. Now, one thing that has happened in the last 24 hours, 48 hours really, has been that a highly important financier, a Jewish financier, Jeffrey Epstein, died. Well, we think he's dead. He might not be dead, but if you're declared dead, you're dead. Or at least the person that we knew of was dead, and that's not coming back. Now, I can go and discuss about who did what and if he killed himself or what have you. And I'll do that at some point in time. But I want to talk about something which I think is pretty damn important, which I think has concerned me quite a bit. You know, numerous people online and in the world of the medias had wanted to make Jeffrey Epstein be considered the evilest of all evils. Now, was he? As I said, I wouldn't have bought an island for sex, so you know. But as I said also before, was Jeffrey Epstein doing anything to me? No, he wasn't. Okay, that's then, whatever. As a matter of fact, one could say that Epstein was actually, his financial interest was, and his donations was actually helping matters for numerous agendas that were coming forth. Democratic agendas, liberal-minded agendas for human rights. Now, yes, you have to take the good, a lot of the good, with the not good, and the bad, really. So, but that's how it is with life. You're never going to find someone that is entirely all perfect. And in certain matters of life, you're going to find people, men usually, that have an attraction to sex. Okay? Because they either they got what they got and they want to use it, they can't help it, or they've never understood the context of safe sex. They've never understood the context of certain alternatives. I'm not going to say what they are, but I think we all know what they are. But you'll have that, and it's not done a lot of times. It's done a lot of times, but it's not really done on a constant daily, day after day after day matter. Jeffrey Epstein did what he did. There's something. Here's the bigger thing that I noticed about Epstein, which I think a lot of people aren't really wanting to talk about. But I'm going to say it. Jeffrey Epstein was Israeli intelligence. He was IDF. He was Mossad. I don't know what his political affiliation would have been equivalent to that of the Israeli parties. I don't think he would have been Likud necessarily, but who knows. There's an unwritten rule or policy for the CIA, among other intelligence agencies in the world, and in governments and in financial institutions and banks, that says not to cross people that are Mossad or IDF or Israeli intelligence or Katzas or whatnot. Not to do anything to them because eventually you will need them for security purposes, for purposes of financial matters, whatever. The government of Israel, the state of Israel, has a mentality which I may not agree with, but that's the mentality that it is, and we all have to accept it. In which every sort of thing that can happen, that can be considered a threat, is a threat, and they have to take precautions and other extraordinary measures to make certain that the threats are neutralized and contained and eradicated, and that the agendas will be sufficient. Now, in the last, I'd say, couple years, maybe more, maybe less, but really since the start of the Me Too, Time's Up movements, and things like that, there has been a sense. This is coming from a guy that's not Jewish. Okay, I'm Catholic, but there is a sense that what has been done kind of reeks of anti-Semitism. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, anti-Semitism as is defined is not correct. They're not Semites, what have you. Let's not beat around the bush here. We all know that if you attack someone that is IDF, or political Zionist, or part of the Mossad, they'll strike back. You won't know when. You won't even know if. And even if you do, you won't even. There's always a sense of, well, we may have pulled the trigger, but you certainly did that. But retaliation happens. It just happens. It just occurs. Now, I thought a little bit about what Taurine Rain Unloaded had said in his 9/11 retrospective video. If possible, I'll link to it at the bottom, if I can. But anyway, one thing I do remember around that time was that was a point in time, this is 2001, in which there did appear to be, at least just before 9/11, more of a sense of sections of the world not really being attuned with the needs of Judaism. Now, this might have been because Ariel Sharon had become prime minister, and he had been a general before becoming a member of the Knesset. And while he was not exactly to the right of, say, Benjamin Netanyahu, he was a bit right-wing. Although matters had changed towards the end of his life, which led to his stroke and persistent vegetative state the last several years of his life, which I'll get into at a later time. So there was always that concern. Anyway, I remember a week before 9/11, there was a United Nations conference on matters of human rights, in which I think there was some sort of a vote or a mechanism that was put forth that said that political Zionism would equate to racism. Now, I'm not Jewish. I can't really say what's the truth and what isn't in this case. What I can tell you is the response back in the immediate aftermath of 9/11. One of the organizations that benefited from it, and I'm not gonna go into all details about how it happened, who did what. But the Jewish people, the Jewish community was able to have people kind of understand, at least in the United States, the sense of, well, now you see what we, the Jewish people, have to deal with for all these years, and now here's what you do to bring forth your security, what have you. Now, there's a lot to talk about with this because it's not that simple to just talk about it in a video. In any case, I want you to kind of get an understanding as to why I feel right now something may occur again. I mean, it seems to me like much of this year, 2019, the United States, much of the world has been on edge. Now, cataclysms, sometimes ecologically, such as the ever-growing dread of global warming. You may not notice it, I may not notice it, you may not notice it in much of our lifetimes or in the immediate future, but, the most important times you'll notice it will be when it's really hot out. Between that between the slow-moving disaster that is Brexit, which looks to be having the UK leave the European Union without a deal at this point, among so many other different problems, it seems that certain sections of the world, including the United States, are on edge. This year seems like, I don't know, like something's not right. I've felt this way since the beginning of this year. You might remember that when this year began, up until like the last couple days of January, there was a government shutdown. I can remember watching a video from Dane Calloway, another African American commentator, stating something to the effect of a government that, in the event that a government shutdown lasts more than 30 days, more than a month, you can actually break government. You can actually break the psychological bearings of a government. I'm sad to say, I think that's what happened. If you might remember, basically the Democrats kind of caved to Trump's demands. Well, not all of his demands, but enough for him to do what he does. And it's gotten to a point where it's kind of affected the realm of the 2020 presidential race for the Democratic Party, and even for the Libertarian Party and the Green Party. To which, again, I support Joe Biden, although my heart really is for him and Tulsi Gabbard. But if you really want to be honest, the person that should be running for the Democratic nomination isn't running yet. I'm going to leave it at that. You know who I'm talking about. And if you don't, you can speculate. But people are thinking to themselves, if we're still in this gamut, we're gonna have Trump reelected. Or reselected, really. So people are noticing this. Well, I think we have seen, or at least I think we've attempted to see, in certain matters regarding at least the social, political, cultural, economic stuff regarding Me Too times up, a sense of people saying, well, wait a minute, maybe we got to take a step back from this. Now, some things they can't really take much of a step back from and say all is forgiven. All right, if you're watching this and you as much as I do follow what's going on with, say, Bill Cosby, you could say he can get an early release or whatever, and his appeal granted, and he can spend the rest of his days outside of an insane asylum. But he and the Cosby family are not the same since Enza died. They've been psychologically broken. So you gotta wonder if there's gonna be a sense that somewhere down the line, much like what people think about the Jeffrey Epstein death, there's gonna be another one of these. Say weeks or months from now or days from now, in which it's like we find Dr. Cosby having died. That there's always that sense of concern. So in some cases the damage has been done. But in a lot of other cases it isn't. That's why you've seen Sir Kevin Spacey get his charges dropped and return to the spotlight in a lot of respects. That's why you're seeing a lot of people say regarding the Harvey Weinstein CVE matter, yeah, maybe he did all this stuff, but it's just too risky to go into a trial and everything like that. I mean, in fact, the Hollywood community gave it away last year, a little after the Oscars of last year, around spring of 2018, in which one of the board of governors of the Academy of the Motion Picture Academy said maybe it was a bad idea to actually expel Harvey Weinstein from the Academy, because you can sense by that point, and they feel this. I think they feel the same way with Roman Polanski. You can feel the sense that maybe it wasn't the best idea. It was a good idea at the time, but it didn't benefit us. It benefited the Republicans. It benefited the deplorables. So you can see with a lot of these matters are starting to try to get back to a bit of a head. In fact, there's a movie out right now, Brian Banks, which I haven't seen yet, because I needed to see another movie this week, The Art of Racing in the Rain, which was okay. I'll talk about that later. But there is a sense that these what am I going to say? These things that we are seeing are trying to have people say to themselves, okay, maybe we got to step back from all this sexual McCarthyism and start to understand, well, this is wrong. But you'll notice that every time people are beginning to understand that, out comes another one of these mostly Trump-oriented things regarding, say, Jeffrey Epstein, the island, among others, and all these revelations of like, well, oh my goodness, Senator George Mitchell had sex, Governor Bill Richardson had sex, Donald George had sex, and we're supposed to all get outraged again. And the thing is that people applaud and do the outrage among not only the lower intelligent people, but even many Democrats, because it's like they feel, oh, we're getting righteous, we're taking back the control, or what have you, we're whatever we're doing. Guys, you know something was going to come to a head that wasn't going to end up well for all of this, right? I'm not going to beat around the bush at this point. I'm going to say this right now. We should have left Jeffrey Epstein alone. We actually should have left all this stuff alone. Because basically, what it did was it fueled the Trump supporters with their, we're getting the pedophiles and everything. And it legitimized the Q movement. It legitimized all this other shit. Now it's resulted in one person dead, or at least officially dead. I mean, yes, XXXTentacion died last year, Stan Lee died last year, they were Me Too'd, but you know. But now with Jeffrey Epstein dead, this is a little different than all the other matters that have taken place. This was Israeli intelligence that died. Now, I know what you can say. You can say to me, well, a lot of Jewish people didn't like Epstein. True. True about that, yeah. You could say, like in Israel, where next month there's going to be an election, Benjamin Netanyahu may not have been friends with Jeffrey Epstein. He didn't have the sort of camaraderie or whatever that Ehud Barak did. Yeah, you could say that. You could say that. Nonetheless, if someone from Israel's IDF or the Mossad, if something happens to them, it doesn't matter what sort of political ideology any Jewish individual has. Oh, sorry. It doesn't matter what ideology they have in Israel or in the rest of the world. They will unite in the idea that, well, one of our own was attacked. One of our own was basically made to do what is. And if that happens, what do you think they're gonna think about the current United States government? See, now you're understanding, and now you're thinking about this, right? You're when I mentioned about this, when I mentioned about 9/11, you're starting to think to yourself, oh my goodness, are we, because of Epstein's death, or being sent back to Israel, I don't know, his death, but Jeffrey Epstein dead, and the idea that, okay, Donald Trump and his people, Mike Pence and his people don't know the definition of too far. Are we going to see a situation in which damage will be made to the United States, to much of the world, that we're not going to be able to walk away from. I mean, what would happen? I don't know. Another shooting? Another assassination attempt? I hope not. A mass shooting? Another false flag terrorism attack? Problem is, you don't know. But I'm going to say this. From what I gather, the Jewish state, Israel, mainly IDF, what have you, Mossad, I think this is the time where they feel the most attacked from their identity per the honest measures of the United States government in 18 years. In other words, not since the week before 9/11 happened with the Zionism is racism thing happening. Do I feel that there's some concerns that are being done or what have you? That there's some things that are happening. You know, but people are just not understanding that. You know, this is where things lie at this point. Now, if you're wondering what do I expect to happen, I honestly don't know. What I do know is we're not in September yet. One rule of thumb I have is you can define your year or your time, or at least a year, in the last 4 months of a year. September, if 18 years ago, at this point in time, if you were to talk about what 2001 was like, you would have talked about Congressman Gary Condit, shark-infested waters, you know, whatever. Little League Baseball, things like that. A lot of trivial stuff. But 2001 and years afterwards became defined by one day. September 11th. Are we going to witness something like this again? Does the death of Jeffrey Epstein, which now pretty much is probably the biggest news of this year, in my opinion, because it's bad. It's bad. Could that in itself go to something in which something else gets distracted from it, or something else is done that's a response? You'll never know we'll never know if Mossad or the IDF or Israel are involved. There may always be that thought, and who knows? There may be a thought of, well, it's not good. To some people saying, well, they have to do what they have to do. Are we going to witness another war? Are we going to witness something to occur that's just going to make things bad for all of us? Sadly, I think it's going to probably happen. I don't want it to happen. We hope it doesn't. But I think it might. Now, if something happens like this, what should our response be? Going to war with Iran, going to war with Syria, Libya, among others? It's possible. Because, they'll try to blame it on his, whatever false flag, whatever, on Islamic terrorism or other things like that. or Marxists or other left-leaning people. But where this is going to lie is, will there be more people this time thinking to themselves, well, we don't like it, we hate it, this shouldn't have happened, but it was coming because of what we did. Guys, there's a couple movies if you find the time, I'd like you to go look at. They're both recent. They're both directed by Steven Spielberg. A man that a lot of people want Me Too'd for the specific reason because he is what he is. Now, one of them is known, quite well known, Schindler's List. Another movie which I thought was one of the best of 2005 is Munich. That doesn't get a lot of attention now. It actually has never been released on Blu-ray or much digital formats. When you go look and watch that, when you go understand what the Israeli ideal was of the time and where it still lands, if they feel they're getting double-crossed. Because if this is what I think it is, if the Jeffrey Epstein stuff is what I think it is, and that it's not Clinton oriented, they would never. Guys, what? Just saying, why would the Clinton family do this? They went back into the presidency. Hillary wants to run again. Why would she sabotage it this way? She wouldn't. You and I know this. Now, Donald Trump and his people, a lot of Christian conservatives, a lot of others, non-Mossad IDF Israeli intelligence, well, they have many reasons to want Jeffrey Epstein dead. But with him dead, the question has to be asked, are we going to get it? By it, I mean, we're going to be retaliated from we're not going to be able to walk away from this. Are we going to see another false flag? Are we going to see another mass shooting? And when it comes to the extent that the people that we feel truly did this have done it, or we'll never get a full, a full confirmation of it. But if that happens, what are we going to do? I mean, I told you this before. 2 years ago, when this Me Too stuff happened, the proper thing would have been to just leave this thing alone. Maybe publish the Harvey Weinstein revelations in a book. Get them known and just leave it with that. It's gone as far as it can go and may go even further. But if you think the Jewish community, if you think Benjamin Netanyahu, the Likud party, among others, IDF, Mossad, if you think they're going to just sit still and take it, you're sadly mistaken. They will not take this shit. Trust me on this. They will retaliate, and now they have the means and motive to do so. We should have left Jeffrey Epstein alone. He wasn't harming us. Okay, and let's be honest, there is regret with a lot of the women and the young people that went into these islands and traded their money for sex and everything like that. Of course, there's going to be regret. They really shouldn't have done it. But I've said this before. I'm reminded of the line in 3 Days of the Condor when Cliff Robertson says to Robert Redford, you don't need to ask the people about what's going to happen now or in the future. You need to ask them about it then, when people are running out of stuff, when they really need the money, when things are really needed. At the time, you got to remember, a lot of them just, not every one of them, but a few of them were they wanted something outside of what they knew, an escape from the shit that they were living in. Nothing in this life is ever going to be simple. And the problem is that if we don't, and the people, you want to know something odd? Along with maybe speak Catholics or whatever, people such as myself that have Asperger's syndrome, the one main community that tells you in life nothing is ever that simple, and life is color, life is full of complications, life is pretty much gray, there's no black and white, it's Jewish people. They can tell you they can call you on your shit. Because they can see right through you. Guys, we may have poked a bear that is going to go retaliate. We should have let this thing well alone. Now, I hope it doesn't happen. But I have this sinking feeling that after this summer is done, August turns to September, I don't know. Look, I'll tell you this. I didn't expect Jeffrey Epstein to die. Not right now. If anything, in terms of notable people that are in prison, that have been incarcerated, I was expecting, and may still be expecting, more something to come out regarding, it's like Bill Cosby. I'm expecting more of that, because again, they want to, I think they'll do something about him or R. Kelly or whomever to distract it again and say, don't focus on what we did to the Jewish individual, don't focus on what was going on with white people, focus on the black person. The black person is evil. Which is not true. Guys, what was done to Jeffrey Epstein should not have been done. This is not a time for celebration. This is not a time for mourning either. This is not a time for whatever. This is a time to understand that we're probably all going to get it. Something is coming that I think I don't know what it can be, but I felt these things. I actually felt some of these things, with the UN conference in September 2001, with the day before 9/11, when Donald Rumsfeld, Secretary of Defense, came out and said, we lost $6 trillion, we lost $1.6 trillion in the Pentagon budget, or watching Meet the Press the Sunday before 9/11, and discussions about the Social Security lockbox being depleted, and basically we're in a recession. I felt something was coming. It came, and I was sad. I was shocked. I wasn't too surprised because it was 8 years. You got to remember, it was when 9/11 happened. It was 8 years after the first World Trade Center building bombing in February of '93. I remember that quite well and everything. So I'm just saying, something's not right. You gotta wonder what's gonna happen to us all. We could have just left this thing alone, and now we're going to have damage that we're not going to be able to walk away from. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I can actually make a laugh out of this and maybe even delete this. But you don't fuck with people such as the Jews, such as the IDF, such as the Mossad, and walk away from it unscathed. You don't fuck with someone like Jeffrey Epstein and walk away from it unscathed. As I said, I hope I'm wrong. Well, enough of my yapping. If you got a comment about it, whatever, I'll be fine. Hope I can talk to you sometime soon. Probably I'll give you more of my thoughts and remembrances of the time period of 2001 about September 11th.